All right, it's Pipes Drums here on April 25th, 2021. We thought we'd talk about the fact that players are playing longer these days, especially in the solo piping scene, where 20, 30 years ago, it was kind of rare for anyone to go past 40 years old at the top tier. Now players are routinely going into their 50s and 60s. And getting good results and staying at that kind of elite level. And we're really happy today to have with us Bruce Gandy, Jack Lee, Willie McCallum, and Iain Speirs, four of the greatest pipers of all time. Thanks very much, guys, for joining.
Pleasure.
Welcome.
So, number one question, what is it that keeps you motivated these days? Maybe Jack Lee, we can start with you. What keeps you going?
Well, I really like playing, but I really love playing well. And there's a big difference for me, and I don't always play well, but I love the feeling when I'm playing well and all of that. So I like to maintain that feeling, keep the piping going, so I'm getting, the satisfaction from it. I've also been involved for the last 30 years in this big project of recording the majority of the world's bagpipe tunes. So I've got tons of recordings going on for bagpipemusic.com. So I've no shortage of things to play, and I like playing them and try to get myself to a place where I'm enjoying my playing. So that's what's keeping me going.
So it's the joy of playing well that keeps you at it. Sounds like.
Very much so.
And yeah, Jack, maybe talk to Bruce or turn this over to Bruce. I mean, Jack, you and Bruce have something in common that you both accomplished recently. 5 decades of winning a major prize. When Bruce, when you won the McCrimmon Cairn at the Vancouver Indoor, that ties Jack's record, and also Donald McPherson too at the Senior Pembroke at Oban. So Bruce, what keeps you motivated?
I think a lot of the similarities to Jack. I mean, I love playing, and my pipes are here. I play almost every day, and I get annoyed when the pipes aren't going well and I'm not playing good, out of focus. It's just like, why bother? So I make a conscious effort to play something good, and I've got into a habit now of recording as well. Well, I've been doing it for years, but in a different way than Jack's doing it constantly for the website, and I do for my own. But I set up an imaginary gig almost every day, so that if I'm just playing and I find out, I'm tuning and I'm playing and I'm out of focus, everything, I know that at some point in the day, I need to play one MSR, or I need to play the ground and I'll make something up, the Kurlua variations of Antrim, or I just dream something up to kind of get the focus, and usually ends up feeling like, okay, I wasn't happy with my practice, but that part was really good, and that's why I like playing it. And hypocritically speaking, I don't like to be telling my students all the time to keep trying, get better, 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 if I feel I have no reason I shouldn't be able to still do that health-wise.
Yeah, interesting. Good advice. It sounds like the hypocrisy factor comes in probably quite a lot, especially with all four of you who no doubt do a lot of teaching. Willie McCallum, you've won everything pretty much, just about, several, many times over. So how about you? Like your motivation factor, considering all that? What keeps you moving?
I would say it's very, very much the same as the other guys. I suppose I see it always as a challenge for me to be trying to be at the best level I can be at any given time. So I've always practiced that way, and I kind of enjoy that challenge all the time, because as Jack says, you don't play well every day, and but it's that striving to be the best you can be every time you pick the pipes up. So I still enjoy that. I still enjoy, probably just that motivates me more than anything. I would say every element of bagpiping comes into that. So it's the instrument, it's the technique, it's the musicality. So I think you're always learning as a player as well. So you're just trying to use all of that, and yeah, it's no enjoyment if it's not good. So, you know, the fact that you're trying to get to a level all the time, for me, that it's the challenge.
Yeah, you know, Iain Speirs from Edinburgh, you're the young whippersnapper of the crowd at age, well, we'll divulge it, is 48. But, you know, even still, I mean, while that's, you know, still a very young man, as everyone here is, you know, that if only a few years ago would have been considered pretty old or unusual anyway for top solos. What keeps you going?
I've never really thought about the age thing, to be honest. I think, I mean, I feel like I've been going at it a reasonable amount of time, but I'm playing against people that I've played against for that length of time and are still going and are older than me. And a lot of my role models have kept going for a long time. Donald McPherson competed into his 70s, I think. Murray Henderson into his 60s. Bill Livingston was 63. So I've never really thought about the age thing. The thing that motivates me is really just the enjoyment of it, being able to play against these great players, going and enjoying being in their company, competing against them. It's been a bit of a habit, actually. I think the only time I ever think about retiring is probably just the nerves kicking in before an event.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know,
yeah. You know, we'll stick with you, Iain. You know, like, what has changed? Has there been something in the water? Is there some sort of thing that's really kind of changed the atmosphere for the top level solo pipers? It's kind of the trend. It's you know, moving, considering that your career, it seems like will go on as long as you really wanted to. Has something changed over the last 20 or 30 years?
I suspect there's probably a couple of things. One, I think more people are making a living from it now. We're talking to Willie, Bruce, Jack, each of them have been involved in piping as a career for quite a number of years now. So I think that gives you the opportunity to play more. And I think I wonder whether there's a sort of remaining relevant part to it as well. If you're involved and you're competing, why not just make the most of it for as long as you can? I think that's one thing. And probably the other is, I think perhaps the setup of the instrument is probably a lot easier now than it ever has been. Synthetic reeds, synthetic bags means that you're not frustrated constantly with sheepskin and cane and worrying about whether they're going to go. So I think lots of things have just made it a bit easier to continue.
Mm-hmm. And Jack, you know, maybe I think people who know you or have heard about you have probably heard that you, I believe it's true, maybe it's a myth, that you've played every day of your life since some crazy amount of time.
If that rumor is out there, I'm impressed, because it's certainly not true.
All right.
I would like to. I probably have sung a pibroch pretty much every day of my or been mentally in piping, but I've definitely missed many days. These days, I try to play Monday to Friday, for example, and I take the weekends off. That's kind of what I'm doing, or what I like to do if I can do it in a non-competition season.
Yeah, but hinging off of what Iain was talking about, the professional side of it, making your living from piping.
Yeah, I think Ian's point is bang on. It's a large percentage of the top players are piping professionally, which is a change, I think, from prior generations of top pipers. I also think another thing is that there are many more opportunities now for us to teach and travel and play. And when we do these sort of things, you know, it's a lot of fun. And I think all the players would say we have a great old time. And there's a really, really nice camaraderie amongst the top players. It's wonderful. And we see each other regularly. And I think that is a change that maybe wasn't there in prior decades. So we have the opportunities to go and the places to go and do things together, which is really, really, really great.
Yeah, Willie McCallum, you're a professional piper. You've been making a career of it for a while now. Is that kind of contributing to the motivation to keep going? Is that one of the changes?
I don't think it is really. I would say that probably it's what you do. Most of your life, if you've been competing since the age of say 11 or something like that, it's habit forming, but it's maybe a wee bit like a drug as well. You enjoy that the rush you get from competing, and I think probably the social aspect is probably the opportunities to travel and play at different events, whether it's a competition or a concert. I think that keeps you motivated to play. I think year round there are more competitions and events too. And I think in the old days, probably there was a time where after the London competition, people would maybe put the pipes below the bed for 3 or 4 months. That's not possible now, and probably makes sure that you're just playing all the time. I would say that these other events that weren't there before certainly help. But the social aspect, I think if it wasn't for the camaraderie that's around the players that I play against, and I mean that in the best way. If it wasn't for that, I'm not sure I would still be competing. I really enjoy just the crack behind the scenes, and we're all friends and we have a good time, as well as when we're not worrying about whether our pipes are going to go out of tune or we're going to make a mistake or something like that. I think it's very healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't help but think, Bruce, recently Jimmy McIntosh passed away at the age of 95. And Jimmy, it was, I guess, a similar kind of legend, whether it was true or not, was said to have played at Pembroke every day of his life for a very long time, right up until his final years. Is it that kind of, playing every day, keeping going sort of thing that Willie and Jack and Iain talked about? Is that true with you too?
Yes, I would say to a point. I mean, I don't play every day either. And part of that is just due to my own physical limitations in my neck and hands, that I know I need to take a rest, which is actually good practice to not physically practice some days. But I've always thought of the likes of Jimmy, Donald McPherson, and some of these other old fellas that were sharp as a tack. And that's one of the reasons I play every day. Because I keep thinking that's a good chance of keeping really sharp and on the ball, because these fellows I know managed to do so. What Jack said, what Iain said, what Willie said, I think I can agree with all of that. The camaraderie is something that I'm kind of honored and humbled and all of that, to be in that group all the time and come home and tell stories. And the idea that we've been so fortunate to be around so long that we don't ever say anyone's last name. I mean, it's Jack and it's Willie and it's Roddy and it's Angus and it's Iain, and you don't have to ask who, and that's just a great thing to be. I think one of the other reasons to stay up at that level, why we've been able to go longer, for me, is part of the ability is the travel that the fellows all talked about, where we get to see each other. And I don't know if everyone's the same, but I know when I'm going to a piping school and I'm going to have a 20-minute recital, or we're going to have a little thing, I'm going to make sure that I'm up to snuff playing before I arrive. Case in point being MSA, the school we do it. I'm feared in January, making sure that everything's right, and I got a couple chanters going, because I'm not going to stand with 8 guys in Seattle. It sounds terrible. But the final other advantage is access to stuff now, which we didn't have. Like as Iain talked about, the pipes. So many days we didn't practice younger because we knew what a pain in the butt it was going to be to get the bag tightened up and then fill it with the cane reeds. And by the time you were ready to play a tune, it was like, okay, that's an hour. I've got to do something now. Where now it's so much easier to get the pipes going and start playing. And we have so much more video access to competitions and concerts and online events. Countless amount of times I've watched any one of these fellows playing, and I thought, oh yeah, I gotta get my pipes out and go play right now. Like, and just hearing it live. So it's like you're seeing it so much more often that it motivates you to keep going.
Yeah. What about, I wanted to touch on the physical fitness aspect of it. I mean, Bill Livingston always comes to mind. I think, it's come into this conversation already. Someone who played well into, I think almost 70 years old or so with pipe bands. But Bill is, I think, still, this awesome sort of physical fitness, conscientiousness, and kept himself in great shape. Are pipers today in better shape? Jack, maybe start with you.
Well, I know I could not be mistaken for someone who's actually in good physical condition. Don't mistake me for that person. But I think there's an awareness now that maybe wasn't there in previous generations, and there's an awareness of healthy diet, for example, and exercise and these sort of things. I think we're more aware now of the ergonomics in piping. Having a bag that fits and I don't know, neck blow stick that's not too long or short or whatever. These things that we can adjust, and we're more aware of that now. And I think we're more aware of the need to stay in reasonably good condition, including the stretching of our hands and arms, and seeing a chiropractor or physiotherapist or whatever is necessary to maintain a healthy body for piping. So I just think it's an awareness now that it maybe heightened since now the early days.
Yeah. Iain, your thoughts on that? And we have no idea about anybody's physical fitness regimen. But Iain, you're conscious of staying fit and eating well and all the rest of it?
I am actually, yes. I don't think you would ever show up at a piping competition and look around and think that you were surrounded by a bunch of athletes. But in my mind, I think it's actually Bill that raised awareness of this. And I have to say, personally, when I felt I've played at my best, I've probably been fitter. And I've spent a bit of time, probably more so I could fit in the kilt than anything else, going for runs or going on the exercise bike. And I think it has made a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware, certainly a lot of the younger players now, just that, not because of piping, I don't think, but just because of culturally, they look after themselves a bit better than we probably did when we were that age. So I do think it makes a difference. I am conscious of it. And I think the older I get and the longer I want to continue to play and hopefully play well, I recognize exactly what Jack said, the need to stretch the fingers, go on for physio, just try and free the body up a little bit to give yourself the flexibility you need to play well.
Yeah. And Bruce, I think you talk about it in your recent book. Some of that mental preparation is tied in with that kind of, I guess, physical well-being as well. What are your thoughts around that, the physical fitness and diet and the rest of it?
I'd be lying to say that I'm a complete physical fitness freak, although I can say probably 5 out of 7 days I'm here first thing in the morning on the yoga mat or on my elliptical for that reason alone, to try and, I'm not sure if I'm trying to get into better shape or make sure I don't get any worse shape while we're doing it, but I secretly can divulge that I want to be able to play golf in the summer too. And so I'm trying to get in better shape so that 18 holes is no problem. And I agree, the mental prep, the ability to see the therapist, and whether it's chiropractic, massage, physio, we have that ability to see them now much more than we did earlier. And they help contribute to giving you both some physical relief and some tips on what to do. And I too, I look at the younger guys playing, and it's my immediate thought is, as much as I try to not be that competitive, but I'm like, I'm not going to let that young guy get past me just because he's young and in better shape than me. And that, I find that quite motivating. It's like, I can get in better shape.
Yeah.
And family that's not been great over the past few years have kind of helped motivate both Beverly and I to try and eat better and be in better shape, because I'm looking forward to having the retirement part of my life going, not being ill.
Yeah, and as we wrap up this part, give the last word to Willie McCallum. Your thoughts on being in better shape and that kind of conscientiousness?
Well, I would probably be the last one of this group of four to say I was in the best shape of my life. But I think in terms of that, I think there's a wide range of characters and body shapes in the piping world. So I think it's probably, for me, it might even be down to things like being able to play longer. So actually, in terms of piping stamina, that might be something that people are more able to work on now. I can remember maybe 25 years ago, if you were trying to get a set of pipes going with the sheepskin and full cane and the whole lot, you'd spend half your night starting and stopping, just trying to get a decent sound. Nowadays, most of us can pick up our pipes, and within 5 minutes, we're settled and ready to practice, and we can actually get a really efficient practice in. So I think the technology thing is going to be something that allows us to play longer. And I think so. I think that probably there would be a case for saying the better physical shape you're in, it's going to help your piping. There's no doubt about that. But I think it's probably down at the end of the day to how long you can practice and how good you are in shape with that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, why don't we wrap up this part here, and we'll talk a little bit in part 2 about, athletes, comparing ourselves, what we do to athletics, and how you four keep up your standard as you go along. So stay tuned.